Hey, patrons, it's Scoots. It's whatever, 5 p.m. California, July 16th, 2020. And I'm going to answer some questions. If you want to click through to YouTube to chat, you can. That's different on every device. So I know some people, you might not have YouTube, it's different for everybody's phone or computer or whatever. But I was just going to try to answer the questions that already got posted. Then I'll try to pop back into the chat. Hope everybody's having a nice week. Let's see. Oh, I was going to show you something. Let's do that first. Let's see where it is. If I could find it. It might be downstairs, so I might not be able to show it to you. So no, I guess I don't have it. It was just a drawing I did for Otter Things, but I don't have it. I'll show it next time. Hey, Sepavons, thanks for coming in. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to pop over to Patreon here and answer these questions, and then I'll pop back. Let's see what the first question is. Nicole asks, Scooter, I listened to every episode, but I don't know if I missed it. Did you get enough donations that you're going to perm your hair? Yeah, I don't really talk about it in the free feed and not the patron feed. No, unfortunately, no, we did not get enough donations. Hey, Joe. Hey, Duvalk. So we didn't get enough donations. I really appreciate everybody that supported it. I'm still doing it through the end of the month. I think sometimes stuff just falls flat with the audience. I mean, I think right now it's a bad time to be asking for donations. And I also shifted the messaging because I wanted to support more organizations. But yeah, the goal is to get about 500 people. Well, the goal is to get like 5,000 people to support and 500 people to share about it. And we didn't get even close to either one of those. But I do appreciate everybody that supported it. If you still want to support the Water Wheel Foundation, that's great. But I don't think I'll be getting a perm. But I'm still growing my hair out. And maybe down the road, I could try to do another fundraiser and get a perm. But yeah, there's no way we're going to even hit 500 people supporting it in general. So I won't be getting a perm. But I think I'll probably do something for Patreon with my hair as I still grow it out here, just for fun. Joe, I'll be back to answer that question in a minute. Let me just get through these questions on this page. Lois Anna asks, I'm enjoying Otter Things as I weaves in and out of my consciousness. Emmett Otter was my favorite Christmas specials of all time, so it makes me feel cozy. I did listen to the making of episodes, but I didn't hear you say how you came up with the friends and siblings names: Vaughn, Elijah, Tefe, Dari. Yeah, I don't know if I did say it on any of the behind-the-scenes ones. I mean, I put work into coming up with the names, but I feel like the names, if I talk about it too much, it could spoil people's experiences with the names. But I mean, I have a couple techniques I use for names. One is names that come up in the research of the project and names that are tangentially related to the project or the theme. And then I also look at lists of names, or it might be names for that time period, or baby names that are popular at that time, or baby names that are popular at this time, or if I'm I don't know. So I use a lot of different techniques to come up with the names. And also it was just, and then also the characters. So it's like, oh, does that name work with that character? Does it have the right feel? Also, for the middle schoolers, like Vaughn and Elijah, it was like, would they be able to be good for nicknames? So I was like, Vaughn, like it was a short list, and I was like, okay, V, and then Elijah could be LJ. Those both felt good to me. So it's a process of brainstorming and listing, and then going through the list and kind of seeing what fits. and playing around with it. Um, and then it's not that I come up with all the character names. It's like it was a couple. Like I'd have some characters' names, and then I go back and be like, okay, whose names do we have? Or sometimes I couldn't remember the names, and it's like, oh, is that a warning sign? I mean, right? Definitely struggle with Emma and Willow, but because they're both main characters, but Emma's narrating and Willow's not really in the story. Um, and then yeah, and then sometimes I keep forgetting Francis's name. Um, okay. Barb says, aye, Captain Oz. Have you ever been to Nova Scotia to see the Great Speckled Duck? I've never been to Nova Scotia. I would love to go there. Um, sounds amazing. Yeah, Posty. I don't know if Posty's still in Nova Scotia. I don't know if I think. Hmm. I don't know if Posty's still in Nova Scotia. I'd have to check because I can't remember off the top of my head. Uh, don't think he is. But yeah, Posty either lives in Nova Scotia or did live in Nova Scotia. Uh, let's see. Cornelia, I can't wait to get some native deodorant. Oh boy, I got candy cane on right now. I'm not kidding either. I just took a shower a little while ago. Hope my dog and cat like how I smell. I'm curious to know what some of your favorite personal based episodes are. My favorite personal based ones. Oof. I don't know if those are necessarily my favorites. Um, my favorite ones would be tangentially related personal ones. So one that just came out. Actually, I think it just came out on Patreon. Let me take a look. Uh, Jetstream Adventure is a personal one. Even it's a fictionalized personal story. Um, Also, I really liked Pocket Full of Stuffing. That was like a fictional story that took place in a real place from my childhood. I guess my favorite personal ones are probably, but I do have favorites. You're right, Cornelia. Fair question. Um, would be the museum one, which is really old. I don't even know if it's in the Patreon feed, and I don't know what it's called. Uh, because I used to make museum. I used to pretend to make a museum, so that was like going to the fake museum I made as a kid under these trees, and then pond swimming and newspaper delivery. Those are probably my two favorite personal ones. So yeah, I would say those two. I don't really know. Let's see if I could look up when those are. I'm going into Pocket Cast. Hey, this is a tutorial. This is a chance for a tutorial. So I'm in Pocket Casts. Oh, no, I'm not anymore. Now I'm in Pocket Casts. I'm going to click on search episodes and I'm going to put pond and see what comes up. Search. Pond swimming and newspaper delivery is in the patron feed. Twice. I guess maybe the feed is updated. That's interesting. And yeah, it's episode 356, which is, and then I don't know what the other one's even called. I don't even know how to spell museum either. MUS. Spruce Museum? I don't think that's it. Spruce Museum. I don't think that's it. That's 525. It could be Spruce Museum. I don't know. So let's see. I'll check my website. Sleep with Big Pie. I guess at least I know how to spell museum now. Let's see. I'm going to rush the page though. Check that, and then I'll be popping into YouTube here in a second. So anybody that was in YouTube, I saw Joe posted a question, so I'll be there in a second. Also, Joe, that HRV related possible sponsor is sending me a test product to test, the Apollo band. So I'm going to test that out and check that out, and hopefully they'll be sponsoring the show. It's called. Is that the episode? How you spell Museum? Is that how you spell museum? No. M Museum. 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 Ba 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 ba. So there's 2 pages of results here. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is Spruce Museum. I mean, it was under spruce trees. I just felt like it was like in the hundred. I thought it was so old, but I guess it's not that as old as I thought. 109, 263. Ba, 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 ba. I guess it is Spruce Museum. 525 looks like. So that's another favorite. Trending Tuesday. Let me just take a look at what it says about this episode. Hope everybody's having a good time here. Got a T-shirt from my local, one of my local theaters. Buying merch from them to kind of try to stay supportive. Oh yeah, this is it. A trip into the past of a museum that did not exist. So yeah, for some reason I thought April 19th, 2017. So 3 years ago, 3 months. Seemed like it was longer ago. All righty. I'm popping over to YouTube now. All right, Joe says, how common is it for the listeners to have no idea what is going on with the stories in the series? I see people ask detailed questions about the characters, and it baffles me. Yeah, I would say it is. Well, here's the thing. So the podcast gets listened to about like 3.5 million times a month. So we get a pretty large pool to take from. Um, so like out of that 3.5 million, there's maybe I can't remember the latest numbers, but certain hundreds of thousands of regular listeners, right? And only a small percentage of those regular listeners are engaged in the podcast, right? That interact. So there's people like you, Joe, that fall asleep fast, but you've been to a live show, you're very active, but you fall asleep fast. So then there's a percentage of people that are very engaged with the show, a smaller percentage of people that listen. There's like hardcore insomniacs that can't fall asleep, so they know who all the characters are because they can't fall asleep. Then there's people that listen during the day for distractions, and then there's people that just listen for a while they're falling asleep. It takes them longer to fall asleep. So those would be the people that know who the characters are and stuff. So I'd say it's more common for people that interact with me, whether they're patrons or on Facebook or something. I would say it's about 60-40. 60% of people have no clue about anything except for the first 10 minutes of the show. And then 40% have a little bit more in-depth knowledge or have some favorite episodes that they know more about. And then if you're interacting with listeners, everybody might have a different favorite episode. So I think that answers that question. Tarwin, hi. Emily, hi. MUSUM. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, Apollo, I don't have it yet, Joe, but I believe it does not do anything. Well, no, I read a bunch of reviews. So I read all the reviews I could find of it online, and it is just a device. You can either wear it all the time or just when you're using it, but it doesn't do any monitoring or anything like that. I think it's like a little bit bigger than something like a strap. So like they say you could wear it around your ankle or your wrist. And one of the reviewers was talking about wearing it all night while they slept, but other people were like, "Oh, I only wear it during the thing." Um, but I'll know more soon, hopefully. I'm looking forward to it because my HRV was terrible last night. Okay. Sepavans. Am I saying that right? if this podcast is not your dream job, what is? I mean, I wouldn't have expect. This is my dream job, but I wouldn't have expected it. I was thinking about that the other day. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to either want to be work on girders on skyscrapers. But I don't think I still wouldn't mind doing that. Um, but I think I probably passed the prime of working on girders. And I don't know how much girder doing. It was very glamorized in books learning to read when I was a kid that like 40% of the population worked on skyscrapers, or at least in New York State, because New York City, like putting together the steel columns. So I also used to sit and they'd eat their lunch. So it's very glamorized. So I said, oh, one day that's my dream job. Then I wanted to be a director or producer or director for movies. But then I got an F on that paper. That was my dream job. What's your dream job? And I wrote that and I got an F. Then I wanted to work in libraries. I did that. I guess my dream job would be like, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess this is my dream job. I wouldn't mind working with youth or helping, like running some sort of. I don't know. I really liked working at the library I was working at. Uh, but I was never very good at the book part of the job. I was more good at the interacting with the youth and the adults part of the job. So I wouldn't mind doing that, like working at a community center or something like that. Um, Tarwin says listens all night long. Yeah, 8 hours is like I don't have any way of figuring out what percentage of people listen for 8 hours, but or listen are all night listeners. But yeah, that's another people that like. There's some people that don't start the podcast till they wake up in the middle of the night too, or yeah, they wake up, they listen, they fall back asleep. Uh, so you get a little bit better just the story, right? Let's see, Joe. That's why you like the all intros. One of those just came out. Um, yeah, everybody's different. I've learned that over the years of like what works best for the podcast. Charlotte listens to the very end. Yeah, there's just some people that just can't sleep that are listening to the show for comfort or companionship or just something to listen to. And that's kind of like what I was like when I couldn't sleep. Is like I just wanted to listen to something uh, like that I knew wasn't good. I didn't think I was going to fall asleep anyway. Um, yeah. I'm working on a couple. Like right now is a weird time for everybody, but I had like this week I had this breakthrough for this other like 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 one time project related to sleep with me that I want to do, and um, so yeah, but yeah, maybe one day when I retire, I'll start the sleep podcast community center where kids can come hang out and make their own sleep podcasts. Joe never. So this is an interesting story. Maybe I already told it, Joe. So Joe says, "I'm a patron, support the sponsors, 100% in the show." Uh, Joe went to a live show in LA, the only one I did. Never remembered the show when his hand hits the fridge tomorrow. So the whole idea, the hand hits the fridge, and I don't have the person's name, unfortunately, but this was when I was really struggling to make the show sustainable because again, I can remember being on a bus and reading a message from this person, and they said that they were like they entered and they were just about to go to a memorization competition. Like they entered these mind competitions where it was about memorization and processing. And I think it was in Las Vegas, and it was like the national championship, memory championship, and they said, "Geez, like this is like," I think they were like in the pro circuit, like they were like one of the top memorists in the world, and they said, "Geez, like there's like a bunch of ways you can use to memorize stuff. And they said, I really think you need to anchor. That's what they called it. Like they said, like I can see how it'd be almost impossible to make a sleep podcast successful, sustainable, because everybody's falling asleep. And they said you need to anchor, like to anchor people, like that's not related to sleep, and so that when they hit that anchor, they remember it. And then he said that you have to say it like 1,000 times to get people to remember it. And I always am inconsistent about that, even though I've been saying it for years. So it is an anchor. Ends up that only kind of worked, but the sleepy supporter zone, which no patrons don't usually hear. Yeah, and I forgot their name. Yeah, the funny thing is I remember where I was, but I don't remember, and I don't even remember where. There's so many different places you could chat. So I'm like, man, was it an email, or was it in like a DM, or was it in, I don't know. But so the when your hand, it's fridge kind of worked, but the sleepy supporter zone has actually worked, which most patrons don't hear because it's not part of the Patreon thing. But that literally saved the free podcasts. Like the sleepy supporter zone, it's just like changed like incrementally, like our ability to keep like one or two more sponsors, like where we were struggling to keep, like at the time we'd have sponsors come and go, and we had like 2 or 3 sponsors, where now we have more like long-term 5 or 6 sponsors. And that's kind of what we need, is like 8 sponsors. So yeah, I put subliminal messages in like Gatorade or Stridex. I don't personally put them in, but when the Bohr Institute buys places on our show, like they will do their. Actually, we have one. I wonder when the next one of those is coming out. I know I have one Bohr, and somebody's grilling nearby. But yeah, I don't put any in. Just the Bohr Institute, and then Bernie the Butterfly, like Gatorade. I think Bernie the Butterfly definitely wishes Gatorade was a sponsor. So, but I think Bernie was like trying to make him deal with Kirkland's Signature, but again, they don't do advertising. So they were like, well, we don't advertise. Like, well, we can't advertise a generic sports drink. So I don't know, Stridex. It's funny if Stridex, because I just used, I hadn't like cleaned my pores out with Sleepy Supporter Zone. Sorry, now I'm like reading this. I had to clean my face off with like generic Seabreeze the other day because I had some sunscreen. So I felt like Stridex. So yeah, I'm not, but the Bohr Institute, they're definitely always trying to help, like use, like they misuse subliminal advertising. Craig asks, is the Sleepy Supporter Zone naming people at the very end? I miss hearing the thank yous as a patron. Yeah, so the Sleepy Supporter Zone is not at the end. It's at the beginning, like about 6 minutes into the podcast, and I go, it's time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone, the one part of the podcast I need you to hear. Like I finally just leaned into it, because like I used to be so afraid of mean listeners, or to the detriment of the podcast, like where it's like, okay, for the free podcast, like people have to hear the beginning ads or there can't be a free podcast. And I used to like, I think I almost caused the destruction of the podcast because I was trying to please everybody. And like, I was like, we'll just lean in, and have an upbeat part of the podcast. It's not like I'm blowing a horn or anything. And it worked. And actually, yeah, it's interactive. So it's like, oh, whoever supports the sponsors, I'll give them a shout out at the beginning. And that just really worked, because it's like interactive and it's a little bit more brash and upbeat on purpose. But yeah, I do. And then to go to the good night, the thank yous and the good nights. So I don't know how long ago it was we took the thank yous and the good nights out of the Patreon feed. Maybe it's been a couple years now. And that was kind of something I struggled with too, because I feel like those are the most important part of the podcast. And that's how I start recording, so that I know who I'm making the show for. but I just got enough feedback that some people were getting woken up by it. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to eliminate it from the show entirely, but I can eliminate it from the Patreon feed, because it's actually like it was easy to do in the workflow, because like the workflow, well, I'm almost to the point where I have it in a slightly more improved workflow. So I bring all the files in from the editors, and then I start assembling the podcast from the different parts. So I assemble the first. When I say assemble, it's like I take the intro, take all these pieces, and then I put them together as one audio file with the music. So I always assemble the Patreon version like a week and a half before, and then I listen to the Patreon version and then export it. So it's like so it's like so it's easy for me to do, like, as part of that process. And then I put the thank yous in. And actually, that's like the first thing I do when I assemble the free podcast, is like I move the file, the main episode file over, then I drop the thank yous in, then I do a crossfade, and I bring them together, and then I listen, and then I like have this thing that's like a loudness meter. So then I'm trying to see, okay, are these the exact same loudness? So yeah, that's like a little bit behind the scenes. Yeah, Fuvuzela. Remember that? Like I miss like I can remember that summer, whichever World Cup that was, and just hearing that noise. I was a fan of those for soccer or football, but I know it was like other people was driving them nuts. Okay, I'm going to answer a Square Rabbit's questions, and then I got to hop out of here. My 12-year-old son is going to an online podcast camp next month. Cool. He listens to you every night, and he's picked up some of your accent and speech patterns. You'd be a great podcast coach. It's funny because I tried to teach podcasting in my old job, and I found out I wasn't very good at it. I've been trying to, like, now that there's a coronavirus, I can't do it anymore. But I tried to find somebody to partner with that was like a little bit better of a teacher. I actually bought like a bunch of, like, even bought this one podcasting course, and then there's a couple free ones, like, or podcasting, whatever you call that, with a teacher, like where like you could buy lesson plans, but I could never get it down. Like, because it's like, I guess it like needed to be a lab only, like because I was like, you can't, like, trying to like listen to podcasts collectively, just didn't work. So I would like lose the class and we trying to listen to podcasts, and then I didn't have any help. Like I was like, and I had like 12 youth, or 8 to 12 youth, and so and then you have to, like, I never had the same youth because it was just a situation where I didn't know who was going to come to class or not. So it was like, because it wasn't like a podcast camp. So it was like, that'll be cool, like going to a camp and getting to do that. There's a lot of cool stuff like online. OutSchool is one. My daughter's been taking classes there. Yeah. All right, everybody, I got to hop off. Everybody have a good night. Feel free to post any other questions in the comments. I'll try to answer them next week. Thanks, everybody who popped into the chat. Joe, Craig, Anna, Square Rabbits, Charlotte, Sepavons, Darwin, Emily. Anybody I miss? Duval C. Thank you, everybody, and I'll probably talk to some of you soon tonight. All right, take care.